Welcome back to our series on feedback. I'm joined today by our lead for Oracy, Amit. Hi, Amit.
Hi.
And we're exploring a key question. What does high quality verbal feedback look like in the classroom? Amit, if you could create a framework for high quality verbal feedback, what would it look like?
Well, I think that's a really important question. I think it's something we should all kind of consider in our daily practice. I think the first thing that we should consider are students ready to receive the feedback? And that could be, are they displaying active listening skills? Things like, are they tracking the speaker if possible, based on the need of the student? What is their body language? What does it display? What's the position of the teacher? So that they can help ensure they're being heard. One of the things that I try to do is making sure that I'm sort of static where I'm stood, because maybe perhaps moving around whilst providing verbal feedback, it could be quite difficult for them to follow those instructions or to listen to what the teacher's saying. And I think the other biggest thing is when you're giving verbal feedback, think about whether it's effective to give the one-to-one verbal feedback so that only that student can hear. And does one-to-one verbal feedback, is it different to whole class feedback? So ensuring those moments are planned and thought about, and knowing the difference between one-to-one verbal feedback and whole class feedback.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a really nice framework. I think the only thing I'd add there is maybe thinking about the clarity of what we're saying to students and being succinct with our language. I think is important, because I guess the moment students experience that cognitive overload or are unsure about what to do next, that feedback is going to lose its impact. So thinking about how we convey that. But that said, it is incredibly hard to be both concise and precise in that moment. Like how can we maybe refine our language so that the feedback we give remains succinct but is also useful?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really valid point to raise. I think, like with teaching, I think it's really important to consider your choice of explanation when you're giving your verbal feedback. I think real planning has to go in terms of planning and thought should be given by the teacher to ensure that that sort of precise and concise feedback is there so that the outcome is then received better, and that the student knows where to sort of move on, what their next steps are, so that they're ready to bridge to sort of independence. And I think the other thing is making sure that that feedback is constructive at the same time. I think sometimes you talk about clarity. I think sometimes we're all kind of guilty of this. Is too much verbal feedback isn't always the right thing that the students need to hear, making it sort of actionable so that they can respond.
Yeah, I agree. A key marker for clarity is that it's genuinely actionable. And students should be able to take what you've said and immediately apply it to improve their thinking or their work. And I guess if they can't act on it, then all we've given them is information rather than feedback. Thank you for talking through those with me. If there's one takeaway from today's conversation for staff, what would it be?
I think really quickly, I think that just making sure that they're ensuring the students are ready to receive that feedback. Are they ready? And making sure that there's enough praise there, so that they're ready to receive that feedback. Probe with some questions, and then again, like we said earlier, is make sure that verbal feedback is clear and succinct.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. I think when we think carefully about what we want students to take away, how we deliver it, and the steps to make sure that it's received from students, that impact on learning is so much greater. Thank you for taking the time to share your insight. It's been really great to speak to you today.
Thank you for having me.
I'll just close by sharing. Every teacher has something valuable to share. This platform should be used to hear from as many voices as possible. So, if you would like to be involved in the podcast, please get in touch with a member of the Learning and Teaching team.